Earlier this month, the Senate unanimously passed the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom Act of 2024. This is a reauthorization of the entity that has been around for about 25 years. The reauthorization extends it for 2 years. In the commission, again, for frequent listeners, it provides and promotes religious freedom around the world. But there's been an effort in the last few years. I saw it when I was leading the reauthorization a few years ago. They tucked into the Appropriations bill funding restrictions on USERF that really flips the Commission's mission on its head. The new language asks USERF to focus on human rights violations on the basis of religion, turning USERF from a shield for religious freedom into a sword to suppress those freedoms. Joining me now to discuss this and more is Congressman Andy Harris. He's joining us from the House floor. The House is having votes right now. He serves on the House Appropriations Committee as a member of the GOP Doctors Caucus and co-chair of the House Pro-Life Caucus. He is also the new chair of the House Freedom Caucus. He represents the 1st Congressional District of Maryland. Dr. Harris, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Good to be with you, Tony.
And by the way, congratulations on your selection by your peers to be the new chairman of the House Freedom Caucus.
Thank you. I follow in some incredible footsteps. So, but I look forward to serving.
Well, I think being that you have served on appropriations, you understand the power of the purse and where the money flows. You're going to be in a good position to help direct the Freedom Caucus to be even more effective. And that's what I want to talk about. Last night, the House approved, not unanimously, there was some opposition to a reauthorization of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. The bad language I just mentioned is not in that bill. It's in the Appropriations bill coming over from the Senate. Tell us about it.
That's right. So the House position in funding the commission was to keep its mission as it is, which is a religious freedom mission. And Chuck Schumer wants to add in provisions that do exactly what you say. It turns it from a religious freedom commission to a commission that polices whether or not woke policy is followed in other nations, and that's not the purpose of it. But this is what we see in Washington all the time: this co-opting of the agencies and bureaus and various federal entities to advance a woke agenda that, in this case, again, it runs counter to the purpose of the original entity.
And you have to be so discerning because it's very, very subtle. I'm going to read the language that was inserted into this authorization bill in the Senate. The Commission shall regularly monitor, report on, and advocate against laws and policies of foreign countries that permit or condone violations of human rights of minority groups or other vulnerable communities on the basis of religion. That flips its mission on the head. It's supposed to protect religious freedom. Now they're wanting to track entities, and this is primarily driven by the LGBTQ agenda because many Orthodox religions do not embrace the idea of the redefinition of human sexuality.
That's absolutely right. So again, it turns the purpose on its head, and it uses as yet another government agency as the vanguard of this agenda that is against, biblical principles. There's no doubt about it. To them, it's almost as if the Bible wasn't a religious item.
Yeah, and this commission has done so much good over the quarter of a century that it's been there. To see it co-opted this way would be devastating. In fact, I would rather see the plug pulled on it than it to be used against religion, because we have enough entities that are doing that already. Congressman Andy Harris, I want to switch gears for just a moment. We've got just a few minutes left. You were just recently, as I mentioned, elected as chair of the House Freedom Caucus. Talk a little bit about your priorities for the remainder of this year.
Well, for the remainder of the year, we have to focus on getting some fiscal sanity back in Washington. We are, tens, if not over $100 billion separate from the Senate position on spending for next year and the discretionary budget. We have passed appropriations bills that roll back a lot of the woke policies we've been talking about this administration. Obviously, we're going to have to do battle with the Senate, which is Democrat-controlled, and which wants to continue to advance these woke policies in the federal agencies and bureaus. So we're going to, this is going to be an ongoing fight, and the Freedom Caucus again will be, the tip of the spear here, because we're the conservatives in Washington who want to fight for American values and freedoms.
So how do you see this playing out? Because you've been around long enough. I've talked about this multiple times on the program. We know the play that Chuck Schumer is going to run. He's already done that in terms of setting up a December 20th continuing resolution, putting the Congresses back toward Christmas, and pushing either an omnibus or a CR filled with toys and goodies for the left. This will be after the election. What do you see Republicans in the House doing at that point?
Well, the Speaker has told us and confirmed today that he is not going to support an omnibus bill. I wanted to push the date back to December 31st, which God willing, we have a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and President Trump will be in the White House in the end of January. I wanted to push it back to the end of December, where if the Democrats don't agree, again, to roll back some of these woke policies to a reasonable spending figure, that we just, again, have either another continuing resolution or shut the government down for 3 days. We take over January 3rd, and it's a whole new situation. So I think that our leverage against Chuck Schumer is that we have the potential for a new administration and a new Senate majority. And if we come back with those in place, I think Speaker Johnson will be in a very good negotiating position.
Well, let's pray that that is the case, because you're absolutely right, Dr. Harris. We've got to get our fiscal house in order. Dr. Andy Harris, thanks so much for taking time to join us today.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, Dr. Andy Harris of Maryland stepping off the House floor to talk to us.